Ah, hello there, adventurer. Welcome to the Crooked Cleric, the finest place to wet your whistle this side of the Carolus Mountains. Feeling a mite thirsty, are we? Aye, we can handle that. Most of our patrons, though, food and drink is more of an afterthought. Most of them, though, they come to listen to the tales I spin for them. Each one's true, though, I swear. In keeps honor. How about it, then? Do you have time for a tale? I call this one the GM who bullied, railroaded, controlled, exploited, and had everyone else to blame when karma came knocking. The server I'll be talking about was a play-by-post on Discord. While there was a ton of different players, the main focus here will be on its creator and leader, the head GM. We'll call him... His Highness. His Highness had designed this tabletop RPG game, originally with two other friends, but he had a falling out with both of them. A trend that I soon realized was constant. The idea was that this game was an amalgamation of concepts from all kinds of genres and popular shows, games, and movies, all kinds, meshed together in one town where the players would be surviving. There was no level-up system, but rather you could earn skill points to learn all kinds of broken skills that would help you along. Your power was based solely on these skills, along with other overpowered items which often were made up on the spot and could literally be anything, ranging from a holy hand grenade to excaliber to even a lightsaber. Basically, if it existed in commonly known culture, it was likely in this game. Now, the real trick to this game is that it was the most unbalanced thing I have ever come across. Attacks automatically landed, and you had 2 attacks. Without a level-up system, your health was also fairly set at around 20 to 40 depending on your race, and often weapons could do insane things like 1d20 plus strength plus dex damage. It doesn't take a keen mind to find the issues here. Despite this, I am the kind of person who really likes to roleplay over actual combat, so despite the already broken system I was walking into, I figured something was better than nothing, right? Oh, how naive I was. His Highness would tell people he was making the game. We were its beta players and would be helping him make it. Yes, it had flaws, but don't worry, he'd be fixing them. With that promise in mind, I made a vampire character whose focus was around taming monsters as pets, which is probably the most appealing dynamic to me, and I joined the game. The issues became apparent very quickly. Firstly, His Highness set up a Patreon which he insisted, publicly mind you, would be an option for players who wanted to help support him in developing his game. If you donated monthly, you would not only be making it easier for him to focus his time on making his game better and more fair for everyone, but most importantly, it would give players more power in development. If you donated, then he would focus his energy on the areas you wanted to see developed. For example, you're a magic player? Donating would mean he would prioritize making new spells and items that worked for you. At least this was the promise. I found out later that he used the Patreon to pressure players. You didn't want your character to die? Well, a donating player wouldn't be targeted, and their character would be given better items to survive in his broken little sandbox world. What, you want to own a shop? That's fine. But if you want wares to sell, you better be a patron, or else you would ensure that a paying player would not only be given a shop, but the wares and funds to make your shop null and void. Oh wait, you're only donating $5 a month? Well, if you go up a tier and donate $10 a month, then your character can have some plot. Because His Highness's time was very valuable, and you had best kiss his feet if he permitted you any of his time. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, how did this guy have any players? The simple reason, he wasn't on that much. He would usually only get on over the weekend and leave his other GMs to lead and maintain his game for him. Now, I came to find out that none of his GMs had any real GM experience. They were his friends in real life, and he used social pressure to control them. An example of this, he had these 2 ladies who worked as GMs. He would gaslight these 2 ladies by telling them that he depended on them. They were his close friends, and if they didn't help him, the server would fail, and it would be all their fault. That his other friends had abandoned him, but these 2 wouldn't because they were his true friends and he could depend on them. Meanwhile, His Highness would also tell them how he needed their help. He would regulate all of the server maintenance on them, have them run encounters with little to no guidelines. He would have them help new players and ensure they ran the world of RP while he got on whenever he felt like it. If they weren't on every day, it was because they obviously didn't care. They were going to leave him like so many others had. He had these two wrapped around his finger. Mind you, that Patreon only went to him. The GMs under him who actually did the work, they didn't get anything. Now, here's where I come in. My character was a sweet little vampire who could befriend even the most intense edgelord. She got along with everyone, and as a result, it wasn't long before I got to know most every one of the players, including the other GMs. The other GMs, as previously mentioned, didn't know how to lead, and I was not only friendly and liked, but quite experienced. They would message me asking how to do things, since His Highness would sometimes take days before responding, if he even bothered. I started helping to run things and even playing other NPCs to help keep the game progressing. Obviously, His Highness was not happy. He became upset that I was leading things without his permission, and even wanted to take away my happy little character as a punishment. Needless to say, literally everyone turned on him. We had GMs threatening to leave, which, since he wasn't on much, meant he wouldn't have anyone to lead his server for him. In the end, he grudgingly asked me to be a GM, and put me in charge of the black market, one of the few jobs he hadn't already relegated to someone else. This is important because this meant I was in charge of running his favorite NPC character, the black market leader, who was a powerful demon. We will just call this character the OP Demon Dude. I read and reread every note he had on the characters and the black market as a whole, so I could run them as best as I could. This fact will be important later. Now, as a GM, I was privy to the GM chats and took part in a weekly meeting. During those meetings, he would assign tasks for others to do, and set up what he called upcoming story. Essentially, it was side missions, since the game didn't really have much of an overarching plot. Most of his stuff revolved around trapping a group of players in a place for a week and giving them a single hard battle to resolve. Most of the time, that battle would be retconned by one of his overpowered NPCs, or a single item he had given a player he favored. This wasn't the worst of it, though. I also realized that the DM would try to plan player deaths. He would purposefully target a player that he felt needed to die, usually because their player upset him in some way, like stopped donating on Patreon, or because he had given them an overly broken item, and now he couldn't easily take them down. For example, one time he gave someone armor that basically absorbed all damage. So his answer for his own sloppy mistakes? Kill that character, or force that item away from them somehow. Brilliant GMing. Take notes, guys. The final straw for everyone came when he railroaded the death of my character. My little vampire loved taming creatures, and had tamed a creature that the DM had once said had the chance to turn into a very dangerous and uncontrollable monster if it grew too powerful and leveled too much too quickly. Well, I had it for 1 week. After spending all of my hard-earned in-game money on the device to catch it, think a really weak, overpriced Pokeball. I role-played training it for an IRL hour each day, along with playing with it, and overall trying to develop my character's bond with the little necrotic monster. After that first week of intense and long RP, His Highness graced me with the knowledge that it leveled up to level 2, and that I needed to roll a percentile. I roll a 7. Well, His Highness wasn't really upset or forgiving. His voice suddenly gets a cold twist to it as he says, "Okay, well, this'll be fun. I hope you're ready to face the consequences." With that ominous bit, His Highness put the entire game on hold for 30 minutes while made up stats and other things for this evolving level 2 monster. Finally, 30 minutes passes, and all of the other players are reasonably confused. What's going on? Why is gameplay stopped? Why is His Highness cackling and acting so excited?
Hello traveler, I see you've met our innkeeper. He's a right ass sometimes, but he tells a great story. Can I interest you in food or drink?
Damn it, Helga, can't you see I'm regaling them with one of my famous tales? Bring us another round, will you? Where was I again? Oh yeah. Finally, the wait ended. His Highness. Okay, so, what you didn't know is that this is one of the most dangerous monsters alive when it evolves. Me. It had 5 health and did 1d4 damage and is level 2. How? His Highness. Well, when they evolve, they become their true form. It doesn't matter what level they were before. This was basically a baby. Me. But His Highness. Okay, so it transforms into this female humanoid with dark black eyes. It looks just like your character, but the evil version because it spent so much time with you. Me. I had it for 1 week. His Highness. Now, everyone in town has to make a wisdom save. Me. Oh, phew. Wisdom is my best stat. His Highness. Well, no, you don't get one. You're standing right next to it. More players than he expected to pass the check, and His Highness proclaims to his plebeians, Actually, since this thing is Lord of the Undead, anyone with the undead subtype can't pass the save and fails right away. Cue 3 players now auto-failing, despite having rolled successes. May I remind you, he was making this all up and had absolutely no notes on this thing. I knew because I was a GM, and had read through everything he'd made. His Highness. Okay, so now if you fail to save, you all are walking towards the monster and are under its full control. If anybody comes close, you'll be attacking them. Me. Well, can I try to break free? His Highness. It reaches out and touches you. Your life drains away. Make your first death save. Me. Oh, okay. Next thing I know, I'm making saves. And according to him, cannot stabilize because it will just touch me again if I do. So, I'm dying. Any player not mind-controlled is at this point trying to get close to save my vampire. His Highness will not let this happen, of course. Here is what the players try, and His Highness's response. Mage player. I try to run in and grab her body and drag her out of its reach. His Highness. Her body is floating out of reach and you can't get close. However, it attacks with necrotic damage. Take 4d6 necrotic damage. Mage player. Calculates. Well, I have 9 health left. His Highness. You better run before it attacks you again. Werewolf player. I have the jump skill. I can jump up to grab her. His Highness. There's a force field keeping you away. Take 4d6 necrotic damage. Tech player. Can I use this teleportation device I've been saving? Maybe I can try to get the monster away? His Highness. No, the monster's power deactivates it. Then His Highness sighs, though we can still hear the glee in his voice. You blink out and are dead. By this point, I feel not only mentally defeated, but I'm close to a breakdown. So, I say, okay. His Highness pauses, probably realizing he's gone too far. I want to take a moment to make sure you're alright. I'm utterly defeated at this point and just say, please, just don't kill anyone else. I'm fine. His Highness. Alright, let's get back to it. He pauses, having realized, hopefully, his error, and states, so, your teammate, a player who's not currently online, flies in with the Millennium Falcon, it's a long story, and crashes into it. Everyone breaks out of the trance as the monster is gone. Other people ask if that offline player is killed from literally crashing a spaceship into the monster. His Highness's response? No, he's fine. I rolled to see how he did, and he rolled high and was able to crash safely. Now let's go back to role-playing in the normal server. Well, big surprise, the entire Discord community was beyond pissed. Over the next 2 days, I stayed offline and honestly needed to not focus on what felt like the unfair murder of my PC. I didn't talk to anyone else, with the exception of those 2 sweet GM girls, bless their kind selves, supporting and standing by me. Through them, I found out His Highness was getting angry messages from literally everyone, even players that no longer played in his game. So, Traveler, what did he do? What was his well-thought-out and adult response?
Well, we were all being overly sensitive, and he had given everyone a chance to save my character because she should have died before the battle even started.
It got to the point where he called me on the phone to demand why I was complaining about his choices as a GM, and to tell me that I was not respecting his leadership. I told him that I wasn't talking to anyone else, that I had stepped away from my mental health because I had broken down emotionally, literally something I had done one other time in my entire life, and was not ready to speak to him at length. He then called my husband, his biggest and best mistake. Here's where karma comes to fight with both guns blazing. See, my husband was also a player in his game, and an ex-Marine. He's also a fantastically supportive and good man, as well as possibly just a tiny bit flippin' amazing. His Highness tells my husband that the server is turning on him, and he's worried that without support the entire thing will end. Well, husband suggests to His Highness that if he really wants to save the server, he can help. As long as His Highness does exactly what he says, husband has the perfect way to save the situation. In-game, some players speak with a time-related NPC that is the master over time travel, etc. And the time NPC tells them, "You can bring her back from the dead. However, to save a life that is meant to be lost, time still has to have a death to balance it. Someone else, more powerful and dangerous, must die in her place. OP Demon Guy." aka His Highness's favorite NPC and the leader of the black market. Now I will say this. I discovered all of this later, because at this point, I'm not even playing. His Highness, under my husband's prompting, had agreed to this whole thing because, according to him,
"It will take players months to kill him. He's incredibly powerful, and I will make sure it is super hard and no one will get to him."
Little did he know, a group of vengeful players, including my husband and those 2 GM ladies, had stayed up for 24 hours straight in a state of rage and coffee-induced insanity, scheming. The very next day, one of the new players, let's call him Simp, though he was a sweet guy, a simp, tells His Highness in private that he wants to speak to the OP Demon Guy. His own character was a demon, and OP Demon Guy had been working to recruit him for a while, and His Highness, likely desperate to get someone on his side, agreed. Now, here's where it gets fun. See, like I said before, there were a few things working in the player's favor. To recap, His Highness was barely online and never read the RP, so didn't know that in-game, Simp had been equipped for a suicide mission. Simp was like a brother to my vampire, and had even pursued her romantically, though had been shut down. Thus, Simp was very much on board with dying to save her. Simp was good at following directions. So Simp was shown into the black market and is told,
"Security seems increased, but you are recognized by the guards and shown inside. You are led upstairs to OP Demon Guy's private office. When you go in, you see him through a portal battling a massive centipede monster. He strikes it with his flaming sword, easily slaying it before he steps out of the portal and walks over to you with a smile."
Simp: "I wait till he gets close. I look very nervous." His Highness:
"His muscles are gleaming from the sweat on his body. He looks like he's been working out and walks all the way up to you."
Simp: "I pull out a thermal detonator from my pocket and activate it, blowing myself and OP Demon Guy up." His Highness goes silent for about 1 full minute. Finally, he asks where Simp got it. Of course, he hadn't read that in-game in the channels and in full view of the rest of the players and GMs. The characters had discussed and given Simp a weapon that His Highness had put into the game. This weapon was a thermal detonator, a bomb which exploded instantly once activated, and had once before been used by His Highness to obliterate an entire channel. His Highness had in the past said this weapon would go through any defenses, any magic, and any shields. It would destroy anyone within its radius, and leave only a smoking crater behind. Karma had come, in the form of a simp, and His Highness's poorly made, overpowered weapons. A deadly combo. His Highness was emotionally distraught. He first began to argue, saying cheating had occurred. His other GMs, namely the ladies who he bullied and gaslit, stood firm. They showed the in-game RP. They showed where the weapon had come from, and they told him OP Demon Guy was dead through fair RP which had full evidence. After that, His Highness had a day of silence for the lost NPC, then proclaimed that OP Demon Guy hadn't even been there. He was an illusion. And apparently often used illusions when meeting with people. Well, having read and reread every scrap of black market info since, I led it, this claim also didn't hold water. Soon after, His Highness called me on the phone to tell me about how I had destroyed his game, how I had spread lies and hate and had the other players get revenge for his GMing choices. I told him that he didn't have to worry. I was leaving. His server fell apart within a week, and they say, if you pay close attention, the illusion of OP Demon Guy is still out there, somewhere, flexing his sweaty muscles. Well, Traveler, did this tale quench your thirst for entertainment? I knew it would. I got a knack for this sort of thing. I have 1,000 other tales I can tell you, too. Come on back another time, and I'll share another one of my tales with you. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out. It really helps us out. We'll be seeing ya.